right, I see us on live. We did it. Who says perseverance doesn't pay off? Does anyone say that? I don't know. I could do them, Pops. I think you're still muted, or you're.
No, doesn't say
Now
muted.
you're good. Now you're good. Yep. Okay. So we're live. I can see us on Facebook. So
And I'm pretty sure there's nobody there.
people do get
Hour
a
and
little
a half
ping.
after the starting time.
I
It's
know,
unlikely.
I know. But a couple people might jump on because they'll see a little notification that we're live. So yeah, and it's being recorded and it will be posted after the fact on the page. So we can just talk for a few minutes. You know, are you up for 10 minutes?
Sure.
Okay. Wow. Anything you want to say about lessons learned in consciousness with that whole process?
No, same old shit. Things go wrong, triggers happen, breathe as much as you can and do the best you can.
Well, one thing that I would like to point out is that different from last week where I was like in frustrated tears and a little bit of exhaustion tears, and this time it's more like, okay, here's how it's going, let's see what we can do. And it's just interesting how I think through the meditation that you guided me through after the session last time where it wasn't working, something shifted, that I was able to, you know, be more present with what is happening instead of being reactive and something from my past getting triggered. Do you think that's accurate?
Well, it's your subjective experience, but if that's what if that's what seems to happen for you, it sounds valid to me. Just assuming that somebody might look at this, what do we want to give them, if anything, in a few minutes? How about if I just talk about consciousness for a few minutes?
Great.
Okay, so sit up straight and close your eyes.
And follow along if you're watching, even if it's a replay, if you want to.
Yeah, if you feel like it. Basically, you know, consciousness is always there. Consciousness, awareness, existence, whatever you want to call it. It's always there, this vast empty space that is silent and beautiful and full of energy. But we mostly have our attention. We mostly have our attention on our thoughts, emotions, ego all the time. And we're conditioned to do that all the time. So we're not even aware, most people aren't even aware that they have something called consciousness. It's distinct from their mind and their ego. But when we bring our attention to the breath as a bridge, and we notice the breath and are not at that moment identified with the mind or emotions, we are connected to awareness. We're connected to watching. We're connected to witnessing. Breath is the bridge, even though it happens on the level of physical reality, the same as the body, which contains the ego mind. It is a bridge because life comes to us with breath. And then when we breathe out, it's like a little death or relaxation. So when we bring our attention to our breath, it's a bridge to being aware of our awareness. And that's really where we go back to again and again and again in this work. It's just being aware of awareness. Because awareness is always there, even if we're not aware of it. Awareness is there. Awareness is there before we're born and after we're died and everything in between. And there's a vast awareness. And there's also our sort of window on awareness, our awareness, if you will, although it's a lot of ways in which that calling it ours is not fully correct. So we have awareness always. It's always there. It's always there waiting for us. It's always there, being there. And in that space, there's no mind, there's no emotion. Now, we can be aware of mind and emotion if we're watching. We can be watchful of that. But in the space of the mind, in the space of watching, in the space of emptiness, the state of meditation, it's empty and it's silent and it's full of energy and there's no time. And we can tune into that. And it's very relaxed because there's no ego, there's no mind, there's no future or past. It's just present and it's quiet, silent, empty and yet full of energy. And that's where we go in the work I do and in the work I've done with Raj to keep doing that. To bring our attention to the breath and watch the rise and the fall of the breath, which is really what Vipassana meditation is forever. But we're using it as watchfulness, but also to connect to our awareness. And then we can observe the mind, we can observe the emotions from a distance and have perspective. When we say the watcher or the witness is to show that there's perspective. And that's really the only function of, in a sense, in the day-to-day world of this emptiness, is its quality of presence, its quality of awareness, of watchfulness, of witnessing. And that's the space of meditation, and that's the space from which we can do work to transform our consciousness, work with using NLP techniques to work with the mind and the emotions and create greater relaxation and greater power, but real power, not the power of aggression in the third chakra, not the power, but the power of presence, the power of presence and the knowledge that in that moment, except to the extent we allow it and shift allow ourselves to be re-identified with a mind, there's no mind. We can observe the mind, but the mind does not exist in the space. The mind is always in past and future, and we can observe the mind and find ways to be with different things. And so you and I have been doing that again and again and again and again in the work we do together, of just getting present. And from there, that's where transformation really becomes powerfully possible. Transformation becomes readily available because we know where witnessing is. We begin to understand what the mind is and what it is not, and we can work with both to develop greater presence and to reduce our identification with the mind and emotions. So that's a little wrap on that. You can open your eyes.
I don't think I've ever been on Facebook Live with my eyes closed for so long. That was kind of cool. And I feel much more relaxed than I did 5 minutes ago. So I appreciate that. And maybe if any of you are listening and participated in that, you might also have had that experience. Can I ask you a couple of questions about some of the things that you said?
Sure.
So one of the things that's interesting to me is the concept that the mind is always in the future or the past. And right, that's one of the things you said.
Yeah. It's how it is. Not an opinion,
it's just how
it is.
Yeah. And what like, so say I'm working on something for my business and I am not focused and my mind is wandering, etc. Is there a point where I'm engaging my mind in the present and I'm aware? Because if the mind is always in the future or the past, how do I use it in the now to actually generate stuff?
Well, you can watch the mind in the now. You can watch the mind in the now. The mind does what it does, and you can observe it in the now. And as we've talked many times, the mind makes a terrible master and a good servant. So when you actually develop your ability to be watchful and not be just run by the mind has sort of at least two major kind of functions or areas of way it works. One is it actually is like a little computer or a little memory bank. It can add two plus do. If you ask it for information, it'll give you the information it has. So, but you in the present moment, and the other thing is that it is constantly going or often going with anxiety, fear, desire. If you think about it, fear is an idea about something that might happen. So that's future.
Mhm.
Desire is also something about you want in the future. So both of those things, fear and desire, are about the mind looking into the future based on the past. Something happened in the past that the mind got scared of and then developed a story around that, et cetera, and it's been using it ever since. So we got fear and desire in the past and future, and you in the present watching. So you in the present can say, I need to know what 2 plus 2 is. And so you say, and the mind will say, oh, 2 plus 2 is 4, and be happy to give you some information. Now, it actually is taking that and going to its computer bank and giving you an answer. But it's responding to an inquiry and then giving you an answer, but it isn't actually present itself. It's always about figuring something out for the future or whatever. Now, that doesn't mean that it's not operating in the present moment. It's operating all the fucking time, most of the time. The mind's going all the time, but it's always going about the past or the future, getting you to do something. I mean, it's a minute, like very short period into the future or past sometimes. But it's the nature, for example, if you think about it about a computer. If you ask a computer a question, it looks into itself and gives you an answer. It's going into data from the past.
Hmm.
So that's what the mind does. It goes to look at data from the past and gives you an answer. In its anxiety, it's again about an experience from the past saying, don't do it this time, it can be scary. It may be it's tying up the present moment. It's tying up your consciousness because you're giving it your consciousness. And it's getting as close to the moment as it can with what you should do and what you shouldn't do and all this sort of stuff. It's getting as close as it can, giving you information, but it can't be in the moment itself. It just doesn't have that capacity. It doesn't have awareness. The mind is like a computer, but it doesn't have awareness of the present moment. Now, they may have created computers that do. I don't know. They say they're getting closer to that, and maybe that's happening. But in terms of us, in terms of what we're doing, our minds are either in the past or the future and using the present moment, so we're not in the present moment either. Did that answer your question?
Yeah, lots to think about there. And so one thing that comes to me then is if if you're honing your ability to develop your awareness and have more access to that.
Let me stop for you for just a second. Sit up straight and close your eyes. And just allow yourself to notice some thoughts, okay? Allow yourself to notice some thoughts, okay? Those thoughts are coming up or coming out of the mind. They're coming out of the mind and using your presence, filling up your presence. But the mind itself is functioning from the past about the future, about the past or the future, and filling up the presence, giving you information. But it's like as if there was somebody, you're present, and it's like there's somebody off stage who's watching you on a little bit of a tape delay and saying, do this, do that, do this, do that, don't do this, don't do that. But it can't be on the stage with you. It can't be present itself. It can't be aware of the present moment. It has no awareness. It has no awareness. The only way it gets information is whatever data is coming into you, whatever thought, whatever images you're seeing, whatever sound you're hearing, whatever's happening in the moment, the mind gets all of that information, and it takes in all of that information, takes in sound, takes in vision, takes in kinesthetic. It takes in all of that sort of stuff. But it's processing it as it comes into it as a feed, if you will. It does not have the capacity of awareness itself. It does not have the capacity of awareness itself. It can only deal with the data that's been fed into it and project, as well as projecting that into the future for fear and desire. Okay?
Okay, can I open my eyes?
Yeah.
So when you're meditating, then, and you're watching your thoughts, you're looking at the space that the thoughts are filling, and then
you're watching the thoughts pass through your consciousness. It's imagine as if you're just watching a cloud. Your consciousness is just like it's watching a cloud, and a cloud is passing by, and it's thoughts about this and that and the other thing. You're observing that, but it's two different levels of reality. The mind operates on the level of relative reality, as Ramesh Balsekar described it, which is this physical thing. That's where there's past and future, there is sound, there is all this stuff that happens in relative reality. Awareness is a higher reality. He called it ultimate reality. It may or may not be, but it's a higher level of reality. But it's just different. It's on a different plane. And it's on a plane where there is no time. There is no cause and effect. It's the eternal presence. So your eternal presence can watch the mind in relative reality with thoughts and this and that and the other thing. But the mind is in the eternal now. The mind is never in the eternal now. It's in working with the past to the future and all that stuff. That's how it works.
A lot to digest there. I love it. Of course, my mind wants to figure it out. If there is just a key thing that you would like to leave with anybody watching this from all of what we just said, what might that be?
Well, hopefully we can get our shit together so the next week this actually works when it's supposed to work. But this is a good conversation. When, I think this is a good conversation. I'm hoping it's helpful to people. It's just a first one. But this is sort of what it'll be like. This is what we will be, the kind of things we'll be talking about. And we'll be doing these little exercises when we talk. And hopefully you'll have more of an opportunity to contribute.
Yeah, and we'll also have space for people to ask questions and participate. We'll probably do about 20 minutes of this kind of thing and 20 minutes of sort of interactive with the audience. So, yeah, okay, great. Well, I'm glad that we were able to get something up today, even though the timing was off. We actually researched this on Facebook, and it is a common problem. So we're going to have to try to figure out how to not have that problem happen. In the meantime, just wanted to put up this little slide where you can learn more about what Naren does. Anything you want to say about this, Naren?
Yeah, just one thing, this week, next week, I'm giving a talk at the University of Idaho, University of Washington Law Schools in sociology, political science, about what happened in Oregon, Osho's time in Oregon. So that's one thing that's happening for me, if anybody's out in that part of the world. The other thing is, I'm going to put up something more about this soon, but I've been, I put up a schedule of workshops and talks and all that sort of stuff. But it's really more of an invitation to existence, a proposal to existence to see what people might be interested in. A couple of them, there are places where people are already interested in putting them on. But basically, what is needed is people in various locations, if from who hear this or who follow the site at all, to be in touch with me and talk about how we might go forward with something in where they are, a program, a talk, a workshop on consciousness, that sort of thing. So I'm inviting people to go to the website, use the contact form, and get in touch with me if they want to help put something together. And people who do function as helping in that way, being promoters, et cetera, it's always a percentage compensation and blah, blah, blah. And I'm happy to support anybody who wants to do that work to help me.
Fantastic. Great. So you can use this link right here. We'll post that in the comments window in just a moment. Anything else on that, Naren, before I say a little bit about?
Thanks a lot. Okay. You go ahead.
Great. And on my side of things, if you go to this link, gotransformance.com, consciousness bank balance, you can schedule a call with me. And I said a little bit about this in one of our intro comments, that I'm a business consultant. Naren has actually helped me with a lot of the underlying foundational principles of what we do, ranging from some NLP processes called 6-step process on well-formed outcomes, to doing deep dive, what we call key trigger coaching with lead teams. Because if lead team members are unable to be aware of their past-based triggers and their other lead team members trigger them, it's hard for them to actually work together. And one of the things that we saw was that there's a concept that we've created of your company consciousness bank balance. And essentially what this means is the higher the net level of consciousness in your company is, the easier it is for you to produce results and scale rapidly, which is what I help companies do. So if you'd like to learn more about that and jump on a call with me, you can go to this link. And again, we'll post that in the comments window once we jump off here. So thank you, everybody. We're going to be on next Friday, and we'll do a number of tests again to make sure we can start on time. And we again apologize for any inconvenience for those of you who made time to be present for the show today. And we just keep learning. So thank you. Naren, anything you want to say in closing?
No, thanks. I love you.
Love you too, Pops. Okay, everybody, have a fantastic weekend. And thank you, May, our support person, for all of your efforts to try to troubleshoot and get this Facebook Live show up and broadcasting. Have a great afternoon, everybody.